We're talking Texas A&M Aggies football on the Our Lads Football Network with Proline TV. I'm your host, Greg DePalma, and whenever we get an opportunity to talk about Texas A&M, Olin Buchanan joins us, TexAgs.com. How's it going, Olin?
Can't complain. Going pretty good.
Yeah. We haven't spoken since our preview of the season. And, of course, it's been a very exciting season for Aggie fans. It took them a long time to get beaten. It didn't happen until the last game of the regular season. Let's start with that, because I mentioned it several times towards the end of the season, looking at several teams, including Texas A&M, one of the undefeateds, that you wondered whether or not it was actually better in a way for Texas A&M to lose a game, not necessarily the Texas game, but just lose a game. Understand that that's a loss. That's what could happen if you don't make the right plays. You know, you're not infallible, or maybe you think you are. But the fact of the matter is, sometimes it does. Look at what happened to Ohio State. Not that they were undefeated, but sometimes a loss can actually help you. Do you think that is something that Texas A&M can use to their benefit?
They better find a way to spin it that way. I think the way it can benefit A&M, and don't get me wrong, they didn't want to lose any game,
of course,
especially to Texas.
Yes.
But the way it could benefit A&M is that even though they didn't want it, they get an extra week of rest because they didn't play in the SEC championship game. So now you have 3 weeks to figure out what you're doing wrong on defense, hone a few things on offense that didn't go right, unlike most of the year, and then get some guys healthy. And so that's the silver lining. Now, none of that matters if you don't go out and win. But if you're able to go out and win, then maybe you look back, hopefully on January 20th, and look at that loss as a blessing in disguise, much like perhaps that was the perspective in Columbus, Ohio last year about this stuff, right?
Absolutely. And like you said, you won't know until it's all said and done if that's exactly what Texas A&M needed, or maybe it was exactly the benefit with the rest and everything else that you mentioned. Because right now, this is a team that was undefeated for most of the season, and they sit here now at 20-1 to win the national championship. And I just, I don't, for myself, I don't spend a whole lot. I did not spend a whole lot of time, nor do I normally look at the rankings most of the season until it counts. It's the last week or two. And I'll even put out my own rankings. And for about a good month leading up until the Texas loss, I had Texas A&M. I thought they were the best team in college football. And the reason I did that, and I understood the schedule and I get it, but the reason I did that is, first of all, SEC team undefeated, beat Notre Dame at Notre Dame, who I actually thought when the playoffs were going to start last week, when it looked like they were going to get in, that they were going to be my team to pick to win the national championship. So that's how impressed I was with Texas A&M's win at South Bend earlier this year. That even though they didn't play as tough as a schedule as maybe some other SEC teams, they definitely, they passed the eye test for me. So when I saw that they weren't getting the same recognition that I was giving them, I was a little bit surprised. And now that there's such a long shot to win the national championship, I guess it does surprise me. Are you surprised that they're considered a long shot?
A little. You talk about, hey, maybe their schedule wasn't that tough. And I'm like, really? You didn't beat Texas, but you beat Florida, which beat Texas, right?
Yes.
You didn't beat, some of the other top teams, but you played, say, Missouri. And, Missouri, I mean, that was a game to the end with Vanderbilt. That was a game to the end with Oklahoma. That was a game to the end with Alabama. Even South Carolina, they had the lead on Alabama with about 5 minutes into the game. So, you beat Mississippi State, big deal, right? Big deal. You beat Mississippi State, except that Mississippi State went into overtime with Tennessee and Texas. And of course, Tennessee went in overtime with Georgia, and Mississippi State beat Arizona State. Well, big deal. What's the big deal beat Arizona State? Now, Arizona State did beat Texas Tech, which gets a first round bye, right?
Yeah.
So it's always been my contention that the bad teams in the SEC are typically pretty good.
Yeah.
It's just that when you're playing other SEC teams, some teams are going to win and some are going to lose. And, I think that there's not a whole lot of difference between that team that's 8-4 or 4-8.
I hear you. And that is why I'm sure that's a big reason why SEC has the most teams in the playoff, and deservedly so, based on that and that depth of the conference from top to bottom. Clearly better than the Big Ten this season, no question about it. Okay, so when I look at this team, and again, just based on the eye test, the thing that I noticed that to me looks like definite national championship type team is the offense, because we see a quarterback that has really grown leaps and bounds from where he looked at the end of last season to how he's played this season. We know he's not perfect, but Texas A&M, I'm sure, just loves the fact that he's developed this year into this type of a player. Throw in the fact that they're deep at the running back position. They got weapons all over the place at receiver, and Craver and Concepcion, and they've got an offensive line. So do you agree? Do you agree that this Texas A&M offense is national championship worthy?
When they're on their game, and typically they are as good as anybody in the country. I'll go back to their game against Notre Dame, and Auburn. Even Auburn was a bad team on paper, but they had a good defense. And A&M put up something like 414 yards on them. LSU, people kind of dismiss LSU, but they were a top 20 team when A&M played them. And A&M moved the ball all over the field on LSU. And Missouri is a good, if you're paying attention, Missouri is a very good defensive team. And A&M, put 38 points up. They did get the benefit of a big play on a fake punt, but they made plays. So when they're on, now when they played Auburn, they had a ton of penalties, and that's been a problem for A&M this year. And a lot of times they short circuit themselves, and that was a problem against Texas. They had a couple of false starts in the red zone that interrupted drives, and they had to settle for field goals, and one of them they made and one of them was blocked. So some of their issues are self-inflicted. They've had some guys hurt that they think are either going to be back or better than they were. Like Mario Craver played against Texas, but he's been kind of slowed up, and even in that game. So 3 weeks extra to rest, he figures to be closer to 100%. So, yeah, when they're on and when they're at their best, they are as good as any offense in the country. I think, I think you can look at that statistically and figure that one out.
Is there a defense or a system of defense that you think might be the biggest problem that you've noticed? Again, just taking a look at who they may have to play, starting with Miami.
It's funny that's a tough question for me because, it's probably just like anybody else. If they're really good in the defensive line, I think A&M has a really good offensive line, and they typically can win at the line of scrimmage.
Okay.
And I don't expect them to lose at the line of scrimmage against anybody, but I do think that if you can create a stalemate at the line of scrimmage, then that's problematic. But that's problematic for anybody. I think this A&M offense can score on anybody.
Okay.
I really do. Now, am I saying they're going to score 40 points? No.
Sure.
But enough to win.
Okay.
I think what A&M's success offensively is more dependent on is Marcel Reed making intelligent decisions under fire. And look, the less pressure he has, the easier it is to make those decisions, because that's the same for every quarterback.
Yes.
So I guess if you can come up with a scheme that's going to put pressure on him, obviously that would be a benefit to the opponent. The only problem with that is if you don't get him rattled, you might leave yourself open to some big plays, and Casey Concepcion and Craver and some guys like that can make them. So it's kind of a roll the dice for both on both sides. So I'm sorry I can't give you maybe
That's okay.
Answer that.
I think you did.
I think Miami, they're really good in the defensive front, or so
They are.
I've only seen them play like 1.5 games, but they're good in the defensive front. So A&M's going to have to prove it. They're going to have to earn it.
Yeah, matter of fact, two of the top edge rushers in the NFL draft will be playing in the game. Bain for Miami and Howell for Texas A&M. So as we switch to the defensive side, this is the part where I look at and I say, okay, I like you believe that the offense, they can match up with anybody. That's not a problem. As long as their quarterback is having a good playoff, that's not going to be the problem. The defensive side, that's the one where it's just a little bit more concerned and wonder whether or not they do have a national championship level defense. So do you believe they do?
I think they can. Here's the deal with A&M, and if you've watched them all year or if you've watched them a lot, you've figured this out. A&M can win defensively 9 plays out of 10. The problem is the 10th one may be a 40 or 50-yard game.
Okay.
They give up an awful lot of big plays. Now, if you look, there's a lot of sacks, there's a lot of tackles for loss. Their third down defense is like the best in the country. So, yeah, if you look and see what they do on third down, that's a defense that can win the national championship. But it's that tendency to give up the big play. And a lot of times that's just on a run. First play that Texas ran in the second half was a 41, I think, maybe 48-yard run. And Texas is a team that hadn't run the ball very well. And that got them going. A&M also has issues with running quarterbacks. A lot of teams do. But the Arkansas quarterback, Taylor Green, ran at will. Now, not everybody runs as well as Taylor Green, but Arch Manning was very effective on scrambles against A&M, and they should have spied more. He didn't have a great day passing, but he made a big difference in that game with running the football. Laura Sellers didn't run as successfully as he can, but he had some running. He had some plays. One, he caught a pass. So it's those very athletic running quarterbacks seem to really give A&M trouble.
And that's not what they're going to have to worry about, at least in the first game. Or
the second, if you get to the second one. Because yes. I don't think of Julian Sayin. I mean, he's a heck of a passer, just like Carson Beck. But I don't think of either one of them as being a guy that's going to beat you with his legs.
Yes. So matchup-wise, that would look good. Now, you've obviously looked at the bracket yourself. So let's say on their way to a championship, if they can get there, is it just as simple, Ohio State, they're that good, then that's the team that worries me the most? Or is there a team where that should worry Texas A&M the most? Or is there a team or that you think that matches up the worst for Texas A&M?
Well, as far as matchups go, I really don't know. First of all, I don't want to say that I don't want to sound like a coach, right? And say, hey, Miami's the most important one because that's the next one, right? That's what a coach will say. But I will say this, A&M, I'll say it all day long. They're good enough to beat any team in the country, and they're not good enough to assume victory over any team, right? But I would think if they have a successful run through the playoffs, that the game that's going to be the most challenging or the most revealing, whatever, is Ohio State. Look, I saw them lose to Indiana, and Indiana played a great football game. And if they played again, I'd put my money on Ohio State. I would. If I put it this way, Aggies are everywhere are going to be ecstatic and thrilled and jubilant. All those words. Get your thesaurus out for happy and use them all. If they beat Miami. But if they were able to beat Miami and then beat Ohio State, then that's going to change everything. Say, wait a minute, this is really possible.
This is serious now. Yeah.
And I think that's probably, back in a couple of years ago, hey, when Michigan beat Alabama, they probably say, hey, you know what? this is not a pie in the sky dream anymore. This is just, we hope, now we expect.
Yeah.
And I think that's the kind of cachet you get with Ohio State. And I'm not saying A&M's going to beat Miami. And if they do, I'm not saying they're going to beat Ohio State. I'm just saying if you get there and you beat Ohio State, I think that takes you to a new level of belief. Does that sound
absolutely
right?
Especially because even though it would only be the second game, if you beat Ohio State, it's like, well, if we beat Ohio State,
I mean, you still have Georgia waiting on you. You'll still have Georgia waiting on you, probably.
More than likely, yes.
And so that's no, I mean, I don't know that any team in this, in fact, I'll say it, no team in this tournament has a tougher row to hoe other than Miami. Miami's the only team with a tougher row to hoe because they got to play on the road against A&M. So, that makes it a little tougher. And
that's true.
But then Miami would have Ohio State waiting. And then Miami would probably have Georgia waiting. And then, the championship.
Sure.
I mean, who has to go tougher than that? I mean, I would take what Oregon has. I would love to start with James Madison. I would love to start with Ole Miss and start with Tulane.
Yeah.
So, it's a tough road. But you know what? If you're going to win a national championship, you got to beat good teams.
That's right.
You don't win it all by beating bad teams. So, hey, I always say line them up. Doesn't matter who's across from you. Play your game, and if you're good enough to win, so great.
Yeah, that's why I think that there can be like a Texas A&M or even like you said a Miami. A winner of the Texas A&M Miami game can win a national championship because of the fact that if you look at the teams that they'll be playing on Ohio State, or let's just flip it on the other side, even Indiana, those teams have not been battle tested as much as the SEC teams have. They just haven't. Ohio State's had a couple of tough games. Indiana's had a couple of tough games. And like you said, the SEC teams almost every week is a tough game. And then they have to level up and play even tougher games when they play teams like Texas or even Notre Dame out of conference. So I think that's why it should be more wide open than the odds makers say. Ohio State, Indiana, basically almost 2-1 to win the championship. Everybody else is like 5-7, 20-1. It's like, no, I don't see that. I think any of those top 10 teams have just as good as a chance to win the national championship.
I agree. Now I will say this. I think A&M's underseeded. I think they should be higher than 7.
Yes.
But Miami barely got in, right? Even though I think they deserved it. I think more people look at Miami and it just strikes me from the way I've seen reaction nationwide and look at Miami and think they're more talent. They seem to have more respect for the talent that Miami puts on the field, even than A&M. And I'm not whining about them. It's just an observation.
Yes.
Look, they have one common opponent. A&M won on essentially a last play pass. Miami won on essentially a last play field goal, right, against Notre Dame.
Yeah.
So
the only difference is one team was on the road.
You know what? And I hear that too. And there is an example. I mean, there is an advantage there, but last I saw, the field was still 100 yards long.
Yeah, I don't give into that. I don't go, well, if one team looked better against the other common opponent, that means that team should be the better team. No, I don't look into that now.
Yeah, it's like, do you play the same round of golf every day on the same course?
Sure.
Right. So
yeah. And that was 2 months ago, 3 months ago.
Right,
I mean, come on.
Right. Look, I find this to be one of the more fascinating playoffs, tournaments, whatever you want to call it. I think a couple of years ago, everybody or 90% of people were picking Michigan.
Sure.
And then I think a couple of years before that, everybody was picking Georgia. And last year, if my memory, and I'm getting old, so maybe it is betraying me, but I think Ohio State at the beginning of the year was almost a consensus pick.
Yes.
And I know they had their ups and downs, and they finally got it going in the playoff. But I don't know that anybody was really surprised that Ohio State got it going. They're just kind of like, "Hey, what have you been waiting on?"
They had the most money allocated to NIL as far as their main players. So yeah, that was no surprise.
But they were talented and
they were
good, and for some reason they weren't running the ball as well as you'd expect early in the season, and they got it all figured out in the playoffs. They were a juggernaut.
Yeah.
But this year, I mean, who would you take if you had to take one team against the field? You'd probably take Ohio State, would you not? Maybe you'll take Indiana. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
No,
Georgia.
Honestly, yeah. I don't see the way I'm looking at it is I look at it from a handicapping perspective. I look at value, and like I said, when I look at Ohio State and Indiana, I just don't think that they're any better than these other teams, including Texas A&M and Miami. So It's like, why would I pick Ohio State and Indiana?
Well, that's why I'm going with, like, if you had to put $1,000 of your hard-earned money right now on one team, I think most people would put it on
probably Ohio State. Yes,
but I don't think it's as obvious as it was last year. And quite frankly, I think this is the most wide open playoff probably ever,
because this is only the second year we have.
Well, I mean,
12 teams
going back when it was 4 teams, and obviously that made it, easier. But I just think that, even when it was 4 teams, you could probably pretty much say, okay, it's Alabama or Clemson's going to win it.
Yeah.
Or Georgia, right?
Sure. There was always one team in there you had no faith in. Yeah.
Right. So, and I think, to your point, you can go all the way down to 10.
I think so.
And say the number 10 team could win this thing. Hopefully it don't.
Alabama and Oklahoma are probably the only 2 teams that I kind of feel I don't really have a lot of confidence in those teams, to tell you the truth. But and
Alabama beat Georgia.
Yeah, they did. Absolutely. I mean, that just shows you right there. I mean, Georgia had to kind of struggle there a little bit a couple of weeks ago with Georgia Tech, for crying out loud. Mm-hmm. So it just shows you that it can happen on any week. And I agree. Oh, look, all you got to do is compare. The easiest thing to do is just compare this year's Ohio State team to last year's Ohio State team and who's going to win. Come on. Everybody's picking last year's Ohio State team. Because they had so much more veteran star power. They had, except for, even Jeremiah Smith's now a year older. And yes, the 2 wide receivers, even Tate's a year older. But the fact is, you had a juggernaut of star veteran players on the team last year. This year, it's like the guys that are now stepped up were the kind of like the backup role guys last year.
Ohio State's going to be flat nasty next year, I bet. But
yes, next year.
And they are, again, I would think most people would pick them. I just don't think.
I agree.
I guess what I'm trying to get at is we'd probably say in past years you could pick 1 or 2 teams and 90% of the people would take them.
Yes.
And this year it might be 60%.
Yes. And I would even throw in Ole Miss because I have no idea how they're going to respond. They respond because they could respond just like Ohio State. They can say, you know what? It's us against the world. Nobody believes in us, and we're going to get this done. So,
I would agree with that. And I know one of the reasons why you're saying that, but I would agree with that if Lane was still the coach, because you can say all the things you want to say about Lane Kiffin.
Yeah.
But man, that guy can call a game.
Sure.
And let's see if Charlie Weiss Jr. does the same.
Yeah. Well, the difference is that I think Ole Miss would have been like 12-1 to win the national championship. Now they're 25-1 to win the national championship. So that's a big difference. That's a major value play right there. Again, I'm not picking Ole Miss to win, but if you're looking for a long shot, I would go Texas A&M, Miami, and Ole Miss would be 3 reasonable long shots that I think, hey, put your money on those teams. I think they can make a run.
Put $20 on the Aggies. Hey, you get a $400 payday. I'm not looking to get rich, just looking for a nice dinner.
There you go. Before I let you go, Olin, we were talking about the defense. So give me the guys who you, the fans are, besides Cassius Howell, of course, but a couple of the guys that you think will make a name for themselves or could make a name or should make a name for themselves if they make a run.
Well, I think people should be aware of Tyler Onyedem, defensive tackle, who's played really well. He's a transfer from Iowa State. I would think people already know about cornerback Will Lee, the blanket, who last year came from Kansas State. He's played well. A guy that's another corner that's played pretty well this year is Diggs. My goodness, I'm just had a senior.
Des Ricks.
Des Ricks. I had a senior moment.
It's right there on the screen.
I mean, he's played really well in that other corner. It sounds like I'm giving you the whole roster. Linebackers have been hit and miss, but when they're good, they're really good. And Damian Sanford is a guy. I think people probably know Torian York.
Yeah.
Yeah, people know him. He's an all conference guy. But Damian Sanford came in when Scooby Williams got hurt. And Scooby's been in and out of the lineup. He should be back.
Okay.
But Damian Sanford's played real well. And a guy that's played really well of late is a safety, Dalton Brooks. He's done some he's almost the big play guy on the defense. So whether he's, getting an interception or picking up a fumble or even running for a long first down on a fake punt. So I don't mean to give you the whole roster, like I said, but, those are some guys that, you may not know of, especially Onyedin and Ricks, but those are some guys that if A&M has a nice run, I think maybe people will say, hey, who's that kid?
They're going to need that. And finally, special teams. Will the special teams help or could it hurt them?
Oh, it could hurt. The kicking game is A&M's kryptonite.
Okay.
They've had a couple of punts blocked this year. And then Randy Bond. I tell you right now, I don't know who's going to be handling the place kicking duties because they started with Randy Bond, and last year in 2024 he made 83% of his field goals. Well, this year he's been, the old Army commercial. They say it's not just a job; it's an adventure. Well, that's been the A&M field goals team.
Okay,
it's not just a field goal; it's an adventure because anything can happen. I mean, they've missed from 24 and 25 yards this year, and so then they went to this kid,
Zirkle?
Jared Zirkle, and he can kick it from 50 yards with his eyes closed, but he can also miss from 25, which is so that kicking game has been it's been a source of great stress for Mike Elko and for Aggies everywhere. So every time they line up to kick a field goal, I don't care where it is, Aggies are holding their breath.
Well, I'll give you then a little bit of good news then, because Notre Dame had the same problem last year going into the playoffs, and they had no problem during the playoffs. Everything just worked perfectly. So you never know. It's like a new season, and you know these kickers. It's all up here with these kickers. So it's a new season. All right, okay. Let's see if I can go with 100% in this new season, because that's all that matters.
If the Aggies have a reliable kicking game, they'll be an even, obviously an even tougher team to beat. But I wouldn't be surprised if they got to a point where, if they were on 35-yard line in, 4 yards or less, they'll probably just go for it.
Okay. That's something we'll definitely keep an eye on. All right. So that's awesome. Thank you very much, Olin, for it. That's enough. That's all I needed to hear. So I haven't put my money in yet, but it's going in.
Well, let me tell you this one last thing. There's a very good feeling that Le'Veon Moss may be back at running back. He's been out since their game against Florida. We got hurt on October 11th.
Okay.
With a high ankle sprain. And so it's about an 8-week recovery period. It's been 10 weeks. And there's some Mike Elko has not confirmed it yet, but
that's a long time.
There's the feeling that that he may be back. And if he is, hey, he makes that offense better. He's their best running back. There's no question about it. He's really good. So if he's back and he's able to play at the level that he typically plays at, that's another thing that'll definitely be a boost for him.
Okay, so we'll definitely look out for that. That's huge. And he would be like, you're talking about the guys that are coming back. He's definitely the number one guy coming back then.
Without a doubt. They get Scooby Williams coming back and maybe even Bryce Anderson. He's a safety that had to be taken off the field with a neck and head injury against Notre Dame and hadn't played since.
Okay. We have links in the description where you can check out Olin's work. And you'll be working you got posts every day, I guess, or something like that, Olin?
We've been pretty busy, yeah. We probably not going to write football tomorrow. I'll probably be writing basketball tomorrow. But when we get to next week, it's all football all the time. That's it. A&M, that's what drives the train.
Well, it's always a great scene at home at Texas A&M, and now it's a playoff game at home. I just can't imagine what the scene's going to be like next week, a week from Saturday. I'm sure it's going to be fun.
Yeah, come
So,
see us.
yeah, do that. I'll be watching on TV like millions of others. So best of luck, Olin. And hey, if they make a run, you'll be hearing from me again. I know there'll be a lot more people that'll be knocking on your door for interviews if they do make a run.
We'll answer at the door because
I appreciate that.
There's never a bad time to talk about college football.
Oh, I agree with that. Thanks, Olin. Appreciate it.
Bye, y'all.
Take care. All right, that's Olin Buchanan, TexAgs.com. Once again, look at the link in the description area of this video. You can check out Olin's work. And look, Texas A&M, they have flaws. There's no doubt about it. But every team in college football has flaws. It's just the way that it is. And look, maybe when it's all said and done, it'll be Ohio State and Indiana. And we'll get a rematch of that wonderfully boring Big Ten championship game. I'm sorry, I just thought it was boring. I just don't think that those two teams are heading above every other team that is in the postseason, except for a few of the teams I mentioned, the two teams from the group of five, as well as Alabama and Oklahoma. Other than that, I think any other team that's six, if you don't count the two Big Ten top teams, I think any other those six other teams, and it includes Oregon, of course, from the Big Ten, have a chance to win the national championship. I don't think Oregon, I'm not behind Oregon just because of the fact I think they're too young at those very important positions. True freshmen, running backs, wide receivers. You got a second-year quarterback. It's just too young across the board at some really key spots for Oregon. But that doesn't mean they can't make a run. It doesn't mean that they can't win a national championship either. They're more than capable. Maybe this is their year. It happens sometimes. Remember very long ago when Peyton Manning could not win a national championship with Tennessee, and the very year right after he left, T. Martin took over. It's like, who? T. Martin from Peyton Manning? Come on, no way. If Peyton Manning couldn't win, there's no way T. Martin's going to win. Tennessee won the national championship that year. So that does happen. Who knows? Remember, Dylan Gabriel, a lot of veteran players left Oregon last year, very similar to Ohio State. If you put Oregon's team last year and Ohio State's team last year and match them up with the two this year from the same programs, I'm sorry, but I wouldn't even be surprised if the lines were at least 7, maybe even a little bit more than that, favoring the teams from last year. And I think the results would be the same. But that's okay. I mean, this is what we're dealing with in college football now. Not that that's any different from year to year. Players graduate, they move on. And for the most part, we saw a lot of key players for a lot of big programs move on last year. It wasn't like there was this team that finished second in college football last year, third or fourth in the top 4 or 5, and brought everybody back. And it was like, oh, that's the team. Watch out for that team. Matter of fact, one of the teams I guess we thought about, because they did have a lot of players coming back and they were the runner-up, was Penn State. That was a team that we pointed to, actually a semifinal team. That was the team that we went, oh, come on, they're coming back. Look at that team, they're loaded. Well, James Franklin is no longer there, and you can understand why. That's the kind of aspirations Penn State had. But that's the kind of season we've had. And I think we've known that since the beginning of the season when we previewed the season and went over these teams. Okay, yeah, these are good teams, but look at how much talent they lost. So I think there's it just tells you that there's just too much of parity right now within the playoff bracket that we have to just say, it's just going to be on Indiana, Ohio State. Can it? Sure. But the value of going with that, and even I think the odds of going with that, I'm not going to, I can't go that way. I just can't. I do believe in Texas A&M, Miami, Ole Miss, and all the others I didn't mention, Georgia, Oregon, so forth. And I think that's going to make it for a very fun playoffs. I hate the politics of it. I just hate it. I've said it before in other programs. I don't like it. And it really is disappointing. I firmly believe Notre Dame should be here. And I also think that the NCAA did an injustice to themselves. It just shows you how incompetent they are, either on purpose or accident, that they decided to leave Notre Dame out. They decided to leave Arch Manning and Texas out. And they decided to leave out the potential Heisman winner, Diego Pavia, and Vanderbilt out. Just imagine the type of playoff you could have had if those three teams were in your playoffs, the type of eyeballs that want to see these types of teams and players. It's the NCAA for you. And it's the time we're living in. And it's a real downer, but we have to move on and we have to get ready for the playoffs. That's next week. And really looking forward to this Texas A&M Miami game. Hopefully I'll get the opportunity to talk to Gary Furman. Matter of fact, I did email Gary just before I came on the air. And I know he returned my email. Let me see here if Gary's going to be able to do this. He says yes. Actually, he says sure. So thanks, Gary. So Gary Furman covers the Miami Hurricanes for canesport.com. So I'm going to get Gary on at some point between now and the start of the playoffs next week. So if you're an Aggie fan, you want to know more about what's going on with Miami, check in for that interview. Best thing to do is subscribe to the channel. But check back with us, and you can do it here at Proline TV or the R-Lads Football Network. So once again, for Olin Buchanan of TexAgs.com, I'm Greg DePalma. We'll be back tomorrow here on Proline TV. Our regularly scheduled time every Friday is 3 o'clock. So hopefully that's when we might have to push it a little bit further on. I know Mark's been really busy getting the bowl guide ready for Playbook Sports. So it might be a little bit later, but there's still a lot to talk about between now and before the college football playoffs begin. We're going to make our official predictions and go through all sorts of other cool stuff. But I'll just, let the cat out of the bag now, as I just kind of did with Olin. 3 long shots I'm zeroing in on are Ole Miss, Texas A&M, and Miami. In the order, it'll be Texas A&M 1. Then I'm going to go with Miami 2 and Ole Miss 3. And that's what I'm wagering on. Those are maybe my long shots. And who am I going to pick for the national championship? Well, we'll talk more about that next week. I'm thinking about Texas A&M. I'm also thinking about Texas Tech. I really think Texas Tech might be overlooked here. I think Texas Tech has is more than capable of knocking off Indiana if that time comes. It's looking really fun, and I'm looking forward to it. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see everybody again real soon right here on Proline TV.